Welcome. My name is Hawk. I make costumes and props. Today we are going to make a Royal Guard. Return of the Jedi, Royal Guard, Inner Robe, maybe the Outer Robe. We'll play it by ear. I know, Royal Guards are red. Why do I have blue, huh? Well, I made two of these. Well, I cut out two of these for a friend. Same friend needs two red. But since I have the blue already cut, it is going to be my panel piece, or my pattern piece. It's a super easy process. There's like 5 seams and then hems, but it's super easy to do. None of this is form-fitting. It's all supposed to be loose and easy to go over. Because of that, I'm just going to go the full length of the fabric. I'm going to cut out the top and then cut it to length. The selvage, which is this part here, the edge of the fabric, it's where the machine holds it to do it, is going to die in the seam allowance. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to leave it on. So all we have to do is cut the top part and then cut it to length. Top part's kind of interesting. It's just my curve for the sleeve. This is the length of the shoulder. I make them the same, and then once it's all together, I decide which side is the front, and I just scallop it a little bit, or I may put a slit, and then the same thing on the other side. And the sleeves are just run-of-the-mill sleeves. Again, bog standard. Since I'm going to hem the ends, I can leave the selvage on. And that's it for the pattern. It was a costume piece, so there's not a lot of detail to it, and it's an under part of the costume. Since I have a blue one already cut, I'm probably going to sew that one too. So now all we have to do is cut everything out. That's super easy. All of this is super easy. Sewing is not very difficult. A lot of people make it seem difficult because they want to make it seem like what they're doing is special. Or they're really, no. I've been sewing for about 40 years. Yeah, about 40 years. Over now. Time flies. And honestly, it's all practice. If you're going into super detailed stuff, patterning is an art form. I'll give you that. But sewing is super easy. I say this all the time about the stupid table, but nothing has improved my ability to sew more than raising the table up to a comfortable work height. I have a full 360. I can walk all the way around it. It's on wheels. I can move it wherever it needs to go. And I don't have to hunch over. Nothing has improved the quality of life on my sewing more than this stupid table. I absolutely love it. If you're going to do a thing for any length of time, try and be comfortable with it, right? I don't want to be uncomfortable anymore. Of everything, I suppose sleeves are the most complicated part of this entire thing. So it's your standard shoulder bell, right? You can probably see it a bit better if I angle you down. So there's a couple of things about sleeves that are tricky to remember. Most sleeves have this taper. Right? It's not quite straight. That's a little easier to see. So it's got this angle. And if you just stop at the angle, when you fold your hem under, it's going to bunch weird. So don't forget to add a little extra. Since everything folds nice and neat. This width here is the circumference around your bicep. Right at the armpit. Right? This arc is from your armpit all the way around on top. And then this difference here is how high your seam is on your shoulder. And then the full length is from that seam to your wrist. It took me a little bit to get used to sleeves. Sleeves are kind of weird. The shape of this arc is what defines the look of the sleeve. And that number, the distance around the arc, has to be the same as this number on both sides, minus seam allowance. Speaking of which, let's have the shoulders set together. Right side to right side. We're just going to top stitch, or we're going to straight stitch a 1/2 inch, do a zigzag stitch, and we'll do that on all 4 shoulders. So I have it on a zigzag stitch on its widest setting. So one stitch goes into the fabric and one stitch falls off the edge and then comes back over. So it goes over and locks this thread in place, which is why it's called an overlock stitch. But we'll be going. And in the end, this is something like this, right? Sleeves. I fold it in half, put a pin, and a top stitch. Just gonna line that pin up with the edge, pin all the way around. So I pin with the heads facing out, so I can pull the pin from either side. If you pin this way, you can't pull the pin out from this side. It has to be from this side. So it's like the ability to do it either way. So I'm going to pin all the way around. And then do a 1/2 inch stitch, and then a zigzag stitch. This is what we have so far. Basically a big T, right? I'm just going to match up basically armpit to armpit. I'm going to put a clip there. Just so I know the fold's going the direction I want it to. And I want it to go away from the wrist. So the waist is pushed down. And then I'm just going to run a single bead down each corner, or each edge. Do a zigzag stitch and finish it off. Alright folks, that gets us to hemming. I have the entire thing done up to this point on both of them, right? They're all inside out, so we'll just turn them right side out, and then we have to hem everything. But it is unseasonably warm, so I'm going to pick this up in the morning. By in the morning, I mean tomorrow after work. But we have a robe. It's not bad. Looks pretty good. My mannequin didn't have a head. I put it on him. But since we don't have large enough opening here, won't fit. Next step is to hem the sleeves and then the bottom. Then the neck, and then the robes are done. Except I think we're going to do a waist sash. But again, that's tomorrow. It has cooled off. And last when we left our intrepid sewer, we only had seams left, and that's what we're going to take care of. We pull you in, show you how to do that. It's super easy. That's what I'm going to do. I'll fold that flat, fold it over once, put in a clip. There's a lot of red fabric, it's kind of hard to see, huh? And that leaves us with a sleeve that has one seam over it, or one fold. Now, you can do that again. So my raw edge is inside the sleeve, or inside the folds. So now I've got fully covered seam. I'm just going to do a single stitch all the way along this edge. I'm going to do that to everything. Sides, both sleeves, and the bottom. It's on the mannequin. Not that you can tell. But go just a little above where the head is at. That's pretty good. So now, lay it out and sketch what I want the neck hole to look like. So I want it to just kind of... So no matter what, it's going to be under a Royal Guard bucket. And then things cover a lot of real estate. I think that's about what I'm going for. It's a little small, but once we add the 1/2-inch seam allowance, it's going to open up a lot more than you would think. So I'm going to cut this out now. I know, red on red, it's real hard to see. But we could do this two ways. I could just get some bias tape and go around the entire perimeter in bias tape and be done with it. Which is not a bad idea. It definitely saved me a bunch of work. But since I'm extra, I'm just going to trace, put an arrow to the front. So if I were to cut this out, it would not work, like at all. Because I want to add 1 inch to the entire thing. Because that gives me a 1/2-inch seam allowance and then another 1/2-inch seam allowance. Give myself 2 inches in the front. Just so I can differentiate a little easier. This is just getting a zigzag stitch since it's an inside piece. And this is just to stabilize the neck hole, give it a little more reinforcement so it's less likely to tear. So now I want to cut this out in this shape. Not sure if you can see that. We'll bring in a little closer. So this is the original line that I cut out. I traced it all the way around it, and my stitch line is going to be pretty much smack dab in the center. So I'm going to cut this out and put a zigzag stitch all the way around. Then I'm going to pin it right side, in this case shiny side, to right side, which is shiny side, all the way around. I'm not going to pin, I'm going to use clips, because I'm having fun with these, and this is a satin. Satin and pins kind of, they're hard to punch through. And then I'm going to do a single stitch all the way around, which will give us this. All the way around, right? Since this angle is, or this circle is smaller than the stitch line, I'm going to cut a bunch of relief cuts all along the edge. And by relief cut, I mean it's just going to be like that, right? So it's a little relief cut, and I put them all along the edge. The more you put in, the easier it's going to fold. I try to go about every 3/4 to 1 inch. It just helps the fabric lay better. Then I fold it right side out, clip the edge, and do a top stitch. We'll get to that in a second. All right, it's all pinned down. Just going to do a top stitch, and this one should be done. He looks great. Needs something around the waist. This entire thing is covered up by an outer robe. It's just draped in velvet. It's never on screen. There's one scene where they flip up to defend against Vader, but that's a deleted scene. I don't know what the inner robe's supposed to look like. Nobody really does. Because it's covered with a robe. So if you're at an event, you're covered by the outer robe anyway. So you can do things you wouldn't normally with a costume. You have a lot of options. Most costumes you get, like the Jedi, the Tusken, they all have these waist sashes. And I want to do something similar with this guy. I could just take a band of fabric with some Velcro on the back and be done with it. But I want to do something a little different. And since this is going to my local Darth Maul, I'm going to make Maul's belt. Or at least something akin to Darth Maul's belt. Let me sketch some things up so I'm not just rambling and we're not wasting time. So let me sketch some stuff. I'll show you what we got. Here's what I got. I got 4 of these. These are just tubes that I want to make, or panels that are going to go the full length. Which in this case I think is 44 inches because I want a decent overlap. I have 4 of them, so I can do front and back, front and back. Again, this is for 2-way sashes, by the way. Just so we're all on the same page. And then I got 8 of these. Right? And these are just going to get folded in half, sewn, and then spaced across. And that's what we're going to do first. I'm going to sew these as close to the edge as I can. Probably 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then flip them out. So I have closed off one of the ends. But I closed it off at a 40, or so the seam is in the middle, right? Let's pop one of these for you. So I closed it off, just one end. It's right side out, or it's inside out. But so one end is closed with the seam in the middle. I don't want to see the seam. And closing the end off like that does make turning it right side out a little easier. Corners. So now I have a nice tube that's flat with the seam on the back side. But you can do the same thing with the rest of them. They're all right side up, but they still look like tubes. So I think I'm going to press them. Just iron them flat. And got some fusible interfacing. I'm going to interface 2 of these with fusible interfacing. I would normally attach the Velcro that's going to be on the front side that's facing the inward before everything was attached. But since this is such a thin and silky material, I'm worried about it tearing. So I'm going to make, I normally like it not visible. It's going to be visible, but it's going to be on the back of something that's under everything. I'm not worried about it. I'm sewing right sides to right sides. I'm going to sew all the way around, but I'm going to leave a little opening on this side so I can pull everything right side out. This is just getting a straight stitch, and I'm pretty much going to follow the interfacing. I was trying to avoid top stitching on this, but it doesn't make any sense because the robe itself has top stitching. So to have nothing on the waist just seems a little weird. So I'm going to do probably a 1/4 inch top stitch all the way around, just to make everything nice, flat, and easy to deal with. On this open part, everything just gets folded in, and once it's top stitched, it'll look like everything else. First thing we need to do is find the middle. Put a pin, and then a pin. So these are our middle points. This doesn't have to be exact. The whole thing's being held in place by hook and loop tape anyway. It's just having it in the middle makes things way easier to deal with. And we're going to do the same thing with these. We're going to focus on this side. This one's backwards. I'm putting all the loose ends. I want to go 1 inch up. And then 1 inch down. Now these two I'm just going to evenly space. Doesn't even have to be exact, just what looks right. I am basically treating these like very large belt loops. I'm going to fold this under, then do a zigzag stitch on top. So what I mean by a zigzag stitch is, for me, a zigzag stitch is number 4. I've got it set at 2 millimeters wide, and the spacing is 0.5 millimeter. And that just leaves hook and loop tape. We'll make this the underside. The side that's facing out gets the rough side of the hook and loop tape. Smooth side, or the fuzzy side, goes on the other side. When I sew my hook and loop tape, I always start at the side that's going to have the most tear. So when you pull this seam is going to have the worst. So I go all the way along here, down, around, back up, and then I go across here again. I feel that way when I pull, it's a little more reinforced there. So I'm going to use the same stitch and just go along the edge. This is non-adhesive. This is just standard sew-in because, the glue on adhesive-backed hook and loop tape it's just horrible. So that gets you this. Or, more to the point, this. Or, more to the point, this. Right? It's not too shabby. It's very shiny. That's a Royal Guard. It's supposed to be. Let's reposition all this back to where we just were. That's better. Alright, so, check it out. I absolutely love this guy. He came out perfect. Fits well. It's quite comfortable. It looks really good. It's going to look great on a mannequin. Well, it does look great on a mannequin. I'm very happy with it. We still need to do the outer robe for it. That's later. Next week we've got something interesting coming up. It's not my normal style of video. We're going to do something completely different than normal. If you want to see what that is, maybe think about sticking around. Hey, if you liked it and you've gotten this far, go ahead and hit that like button. Maybe leave a comment. Subscribe, do that whole thing. Share. I do have members. I like my members. My members make this thing happen. Well, eventually. Right now, they're just very fantastic people that I absolutely adore. I do make members-only content. It's not like a huge amount. It's about a video a month. Maybe 2. Depends on my mood. If you want to see that, think about joining. Other than that, thanks for making it to the end. And hope to see you next time.